Let's start off our discussion. Of course, brain drain is nothing new to Sri Lankans. It has become a household term today. What is your assessment of what's happening right now regarding who has gone and who's staying back?
Is because we are associating brain drain to be a consequence of the socio-political and economic hardships that the country is going through. And so I think it's time that we realize that with the mobilization of talent and skills, and as a nation we need to understand and work towards ensuring organizations are really getting ready. There's no right or wrong, and I think you have to do what you need to do for yourself and for that situation that you may be in at this point.
Brain drain has become a buzzword in Sri Lanka today, and that is our topic of conversation with Dinali Peiris. Stay tuned.
Some bonds give more returns. Get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. The topic of conversation today is brain drain, and with us we have Dinali Peiris, who is the Director Group Human Resources at MAS Holdings. Dinali, thank you for being a part of our show today.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Let's start off our discussion. Of course, brain drain is nothing new to Sri Lankans. It has become a household term today. So what is your assessment of what's happening right now regarding who has gone and who's staying back?
Sure. So if we look at what the numbers published by the Sri Lanka Foreign Employment Bureau is saying, this brain drain has been a phenomenon that dates back to the 1900s, and of course we've seen more notable numbers and increases as we have kind of gone forward into the 2000s. So just to talk about some statistics, in 2005 we had around 240,000 departures for foreign employment. And this rose by 60,000 in 2014, which kind of brings that 240,000 to about 300,000, right? Our all-time high of this kind of indicator has been in 2022, where the 300,000 grew to about 311,000, which has been the recorded all-time high in the country. But what's interesting is that this is just not something that is happening in Sri Lanka. It's actually a global phenomenon and a global trend that we see. And in 2021, the global average brain drain rate was 47%. Right? Wow. So this is just not something unique.
47%.
47%. So it seems quite high. So this is not just something unique to Sri Lanka. So this has been happening now for quite a while. And I think the reason why it's now becoming a household term is because we are associating brain drain to be a consequence of the socio-political and economic hardships that the country is going through. And what we see is, yes, we are losing critical talent. But I think we also need to ask ourselves two very important questions. What are we doing to prevent or reduce this from happening? And what are we also doing to retain and recognize and value those who are staying back?
Of course.
Because there are individuals who are staying back and choosing to be here. And so I think it's time that we realize that with the mobilization of talent and skills, countries will both lose talent, but there is also an opportunity to gain talent. And as a nation, we need to understand and work towards ensuring organizations are really getting ready for this by focusing on developing their succession plans, identifying their critical talent, as well as positioning themselves to be able to attract foreign global talent in. So I think that's kind of where we are right now on all of this.
That's a fabulous foundation because you've given me so many question
Sure,
points.
sure.
You spoke of critical talent and
Yes.
that we're losing critical talent.
Yes.
And what we're seeing is we're losing both skilled and non-skilled, both of who are critical.
Sure.
What are your views on this?
Sure. So I think when we talk about, brain drain, we are talking about the overall loss of talent, right? And this could be loss of technical skill, it could be loss of tacit knowledge, it could be just overall loss of leadership. For me, given the industry that I'm employed in and I'm associated with, we look at our employees, there's no differentiation between skilled and non-skilled, and they're all talent to us. So we don't really segregate between the two, but what we do look at is we look at how involved our talent is with manufacturing the final product, and whether they are what we call direct employees or indirect employees. And we mold our attraction, development and engagement and retention strategies to cater to their differing needs. So to answer your question, I think it's important for us to dig a little deeper to really understand and analyze the reasons that employees and workers do migrate, right? Whether you are skilled or unskilled, what's the reason that is prompting you to leave the country and prompting you to migrate? Is it for higher education? Is it because there's a perception that you can get a better job with a better pay? Are you just following the trend? Everyone's migrating, so why not jump on that bandwagon? Are you migrating because you don't believe Sri Lanka is moving forward? So what is that reason? And I think we need to kind of figure what that is. And migration is not cheap. It's a costly matter, and we've seen employees that migrate for studies, hoping that once they study in about 1 to 2 years, that they'll be able to get some sponsored work. We've seen a handful of employees that migrate with actually secured jobs in hand, and we've seen also many that leave the country on a tourist visa with a hope to secure employment in the country that they visit to. But regardless of how you actually get yourself across there, migration is costly, which is why, in my opinion, whether you're a skilled employee or an unskilled employee, you need to make sure that whatever path you choose, it pays off, and that you'll be able to sustain your standard of living, if not improve it, and that you're mentally, physically and emotionally strong enough to make such a move, because it is difficult.
Quite a change.
It's not an easy move to make, right? Going into so much of unknown, and sometimes with a very minimal support system that you may have. So I strongly believe that sometimes you just got to let natural attrition take its course, but make sure that what you can do to ensure that you retain those who have the right balance of agility, talent and skills that you need, and most importantly, of course, you retain those that have the right attitude to work with you.
I like the word natural attrition, let nature take its course, more or less.
Yes.
Which also brings us to a question regarding ethics,
right.
And maybe moral obligations. So on one hand,
yes.
we have to say that
yes.
anybody who wants to go should go.
Yeah.
They should be
Yeah.
able to freely
Correct.
go and live and work.
Correct.
Then of course we have the other end of the spectrum where we have a sense of duty to our country. We are in a crisis, stay together and let's build. So how are Sri Lankans deciding between these two from what you can see?
Sure. I mean, so in my opinion, and really based on the many conversations with talent who have chosen to leave or chosen to stay, I think there's a lot more to those decisions and than really what meets the eye, right? So you meet some individuals whose lifelong dream has been to work overseas, build a new life, gain new experience, work for global corporate, giants. And these individuals are choosing to make that move now rather than later due to the uncertainty that's prevailing. Then you also meet some individuals who want to experience what it's like to study and live overseas, and with the aim of coming back to Sri Lanka. So it's almost like we're going to go for a couple of years, and then we're going to come back when when things are a little bit better, and they believe that that time will actually benefit them. It'll add to their experience and to their development. Then we also see some that really are feeling like they're now backed in a corner almost, either due to financial constraints, or they feel that their careers aren't progressing as it should, or they're being pressured by their family and their loved ones to make the move, and hence they leave. And we have actually had many talent who've had young families just starting off where they've not really wanted to go, but pressure from the family to be able to go and have a second option are things that have driven them. And then there are those that are just following the trend, right? Everyone is migrating, so let me also look. Neighbors, friends. So there's always this kind of reason. And finally, you also have those that stay back, right? They stay back, optimistic. They, hope that things are going to get better. They are giving their best to deal with the present day and the present day, and they don't want to leave the country because of their loved ones, the support system. They are familiar, and some of them are truly, truly passionate and have a lot of love, for the country. And I think ultimately, all of these choices that you make really depends on your own personal goals and where you are in life. Your comfort, your familiarity, the pros versus the cons, and the different payoffs. And I think we have to respect that. Definitely. That not everyone is in that same situation, and each one may be driven by those different personal agendas. So there's no right or wrong, and I think you have to do what you need to do for yourself and for that situation that you may be in at this point.
Exactly. I love all the reasons. I mean, that's a very good analysis of the reasons people go. You mentioned the people who are staying. Now, right now, we saw that the massive migration has kind of paused, or at least that's how it looks like.
Yes.
What would tempt the people who actually thought to stay back to go, if at all? Because still, we're talking about a lot of uncertainty in the country. It's good, but it's not sure. Lots of unknowns.
Sure. So I think, obviously, there is the whole, let's say, socioeconomic climate of the country. Let's park that aside. We remain positive and optimistic about what the future will give. But let's just look at it from an organizational perspective and what we could do to kind of make sure that those that are now still with us continue to stay with us and are not tempted, let's say, to make that move. And I think there are various things that we can do to retain the talent. And it is really rests with the leaders that are in the organization, that they have to play really a pivotal role in making sure that they prioritize employee development, the environment and overall employee welfare and well-being, to make sure that they kind of influence this in a positive manner. So one of the things that we do at MAS is we strongly believe in conversations, and we actually call it talent conversations, where we take time to speak to our teams and really to understand what's going on in their life. And this is not from a work perspective, but really from a personal perspective. It's almost trying to understand what are their growth, what are their personal aspirations, where do they want to see their life, what do they want to do with their careers, and really understanding that quite deep. And then what we do is, once we understand that, we try to see as an organization, how can we help match that aspiration, and how can we get that aspiration to life. So we strongly believe in these talent conversations. We also try to foster a culture of inclusivity and recognition, and we like to provide systems to help employees grow in their career. And now growing in their career can be growing up, it can be also growing across to get new experiences, new challenges, and keep them in an environment where they can learn, where they are constantly challenged, where they feel that they are adding value and that value is also coming to them. So we try to kind of create that kind of environment. I think many organizations in Sri Lanka also, some of them have what we call a global footprint. So whilst they are here in Sri Lanka, they have presence in other countries as well. And I think those organizations need to leverage on that by moving and rotating their talent around, by having global mobility policies, which allows, if someone is really yearning to earn some extra money, to earn foreign exchange, to have an experience, internationally, that they can use that global footprint to give them that opportunity, which then may prevent them from, migrating, or leaving, right? And most importantly, building succession pipelines, I think, is really important to ensure that there's continuity of talent within an organization, and that brain drain, the impact of brain drain is mitigated, because even though someone leaves, you have someone ready who will be able to kind of, fill in. So identifying those critical positions, identifying where some of that talent is really moving, building that up, I think becomes very important. And organizations should also look at things like mentorship programs, flexible work arrangements, and also give opportunities for meaningful work, so that all can contribute
and feel
to,
good about it.
And I think a combination of all of that will help you retain your employees better.
Definitely. You said something very interesting, Dinali. You said global mobility. That brings me to my next question. So along with brain drain, like you said, it's a global phenomenon. 47% you said.
Sure.
That's huge. So how can we balance brain gain and brain drain? Because we should retain our talent, but maybe we can also look at gaining foreign talent.
Of course. And I think that's a very important area. And I'm going to go back a little bit to COVID. And I think COVID and what we experienced in COVID really opened up what all of these possibilities are. Because most of us had to work from home. And work from home means you could have actually worked from any other country, which means the talent right across the world almost becomes your talent pool if you want to engage differently. So I think that experience has given us kind of new tools that we can look at in terms of how can you mitigate some of this loss, and bringing talent to Sri Lanka, bringing talent who has left and to come back to Sri Lanka, and enticing foreign expertise is important, and that we need to make sure that we create an environment that celebrates innovation, creativity and disruptive thinking. I think some ingredients that we have to look at. So we need policies that support entrepreneurs, policies that say yes to research and development ventures, and that foster like tight-knit collaborations between our universities, industries and government bodies. So what we really want, and what do we want, right, is when talent is scanning the globe for where is their next big opportunity, we want Sri Lanka to light up on their map, right? And we want them to think Sri Lanka is a country where we can come, our skills will be used, and where we can grow and flourish. And that's how we want to position Sri Lanka. And I think as a country, we have a unique selling proposition. We have a country that's rich in cultural heritage. We have beautiful natural, landscape. It's one of those countries that from the beach to the mountains, you can go in just a matter of hours, right? You have all of this diversity, and it has a unique charm. Anyone who visits Sri Lanka always talks about that unique charm. And what we really need to do is we have to kind of showcase all of this in our country so that it makes it compelling for someone to come down, where they really feel like coming to Sri Lanka is almost like a home away from home, right?
Lovely.
And so like, let's just say, someone is here, they are waking up to the call of peacocks, they are sipping tea, they are overlooking green tea estates, they can go and see the ancient ruins. So it's just not about job and work. It's almost like a lifestyle upgrade. And when you look at young talent today, and you look at the newer generation, that's what they're wanting. It's not just about working
9 to 5, no.
and getting money. It's also about those new experiences that they want. And so I think we've got to really maximize on what we have. So there's a term that's used called digital nomads, right? And these are people who can just go work from anywhere. And we've got to make our country compelling enough for those digital nomads to want to come. So if we want to, attract the best and the brightest back to our shows, and if you want to entice this talent across the globe, we have to really paint a picture that Sri Lanka is just not a destination for work, but a place where innovation thrives, where dreams can take flight, and more importantly, a place that truly feels like home. Of course, easier said than done. There is a lot more that has to fall into place for this to happen, which is beyond sometimes the reach of us as corporates. Our laws, our governing bodies, infrastructure, our mindset, a lot of things have to change to be able to do that.
But that's a beautiful picture. I hope we can go there.
I hope so too.
It's time to take a very small break, but we'll soon be back to talk more about brain drain.
What makes a truly awesome insurance company? Is it the skills to manage big numbers and big responsibilities? Well, that's definitely part of it. But there's more. It's the people. They're awesome. Super passionate about looking out for others and putting in their time for people's finances. It's not just the people. It's how we do things that's awesome. From being trendsetters of the industry to being connectors or inventors. It's about well-being and how we achieve it. Our teams hustle non-stop to meet the needs of the people. That's why we're on the rise. But it's not just about how we do things either. It's about how we improve things. Helping our clients thrive in a world that's full of awesome goals to achieve. Making the maximum out of the minimum. But wait, there's more to it. There's one last thing that truly makes an insurance company awesome. It's that we care about our people and our customers. All of this combined, it's been a pretty awesome year. And we're excited for tomorrow.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
Welcome back to the show. We're in conversation with Dinali Peiris, the Director Group Human Resources at MAS Holdings. Dinali, if we look at the future, right? I mean, lots of things are happening in Sri Lanka, good, bad, challenging, uncertain, you name it. When you look at the future talent pipeline of the country, our needs and what we will have and what we need, what are your thoughts on this? What are your predictions?
Sure. So looking ahead, let's say to the next decade, it's clear that Sri Lanka's talent landscape is really going to be shaped predominantly by this generation that we refer to as Generation Z. The innovative, tech-savvy individuals who are really poised to revolutionize industries and drive progress. And this generation comes with their own set of aspirations, values, and expectations. And it's time that we have to recognize that, and we have to actively embrace and amplify their voices, because if we don't gear up for that, then we're really kind of going to lose out. So our talent pipelines, I think, are going to be brimming with this Generation Zers. They are going to be armed with fresh ideas, fresh perspectives. They're going to have boundless energy. They are going to be hungry for meaningful work. That's important. And so to truly harness their potential, we need to pick up the pace in actually nurturing them and empowering them. It's not just about providing education and training. It's about creating an environment where they feel valued, they feel heard, and where they are encouraged to kind of thrive. So how do we do this? I think firstly we do need to revamp or review our educational systems to align with these needs and preferences of Generation Z. This means embracing digital learning platforms, programs to foster creativity and critical thinking, and also offering practical hands-on experiences that prepares them, for the world ahead. I think is going to be important. But it doesn't just stop there. We also need to actively seek out this next level of talent by really involving them in the decision-making process, right? By listening to their voices, taking their perspectives into account, getting their ideas, empowering them to kind of also feed into this process is, I think, also going to be, important, and is going to be a sign of what we need to do with talent for the future. Whilst all of that is going on, we can't forget mentorship and role modeling. So pairing up this talent with seasoned professionals who can offer guidance, support and insights, I think can be also very impactful. And so it's about creating that culture of learning and growth where knowledge is shared freely and where relationships are built on mutual trust and understanding. So in essence, we are maturing our talent pipelines, not just by ticking boxes, it's by really fostering a dynamic, inclusive ecosystem where every voice is heard, where every idea is valued, and every individual has the opportunity to reach their full potential. And by doing so, we not only secure the future of Sri Lanka as talent pool, but we also give way to a much more brighter and a more innovative tomorrow is what we feel.
With all hands on deck.
Of course.
So Dinali, in one of your previous answers, you said that there's a lot that needs to be done by different parties, different stakeholders.
Sure.
It's not just the corporates that can
Yes.
do this. It's not just the government. Yes. What would you say are the collaboration needs that we should see between different stakeholders? What should the government do? What should the private sector do? Public sector? It's a big question.
Yeah. No, I think every stakeholder has a part to play in this whole phenomenon of brain drain, and if we really want to address it in terms of trying to hold on to the talent that we want to hold on to, and also to make ourselves attractive enough to bring in global talent, without all the stakeholders doing that bit of what they need to do, I think it's going to be difficult to crack. So I think I already shared from a corporate perspective the many things that we can do as a corporate to make your organization compelling enough that talent does not want to move. But organizations are housed and located in a country, right? And that's really where the government has to step in terms of addressing some of the issues, some of what's causing people to lose hope, in the country. It's not about solving all of those challenges overnight, but it's about painting a picture for what that future can look like, and then giving people confidence in your plan. That there is a plan in place for the long term, and that plan doesn't change. Steps are taken, and people feel confident in the plan, confident in the leadership, confident in the steps, and they know it's okay. It's a tough time now, but
yes,
and I think that's where and we need that. And And I think every stakeholder has to kind of understand what is their part in addressing this. And I think when it all comes together, I think that's when you really are able to address this issue, both in terms of losing talent as well as gaining talent. And we experienced a lot of this. And when we then decided that we can't answer some of these questions, it's beyond us. So let's look at what we can do as an organization, and let's be mindful that whatever we can do, whatever we do, people may leave, and that is not because of the organization but because of the situation. And then let's ready ourselves. And that's why we identified our critical talent. That's why we focus on building our pipelines. That's why we looked at the global landscape of talent to bring talent in to kind of mitigate what that loss would be.
Dinali, it's been such an exciting and interesting conversation, and I love the optimistic spin you put to an otherwise gloomy topic. So as my last question,
Sure.
Are there any concluding thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Sure. I think when we talk about talent, retention and brain regain, I think it's not just about numbers and statistics. You have to think about the people, and these are real talented individuals who have the power to shape the future of Sri Lanka. And if we want that future to be bright, we have to kind of start thinking differently in how we're really going to address all of this. It's also about time that we shift our focus, and I think that we accept that it's not just about trying to keep our talent all within our, within our borders, but that it's really about trying to create a culture and an environment where whilst you may lose talent, you're also able to bring talent in. And sometimes you've got to accept that, and you've got to realize that this is what it is, right? And then what do you need to do to kind of go forward? And also, I think this is quite also important is, I think today, employees want to be a part of something bigger, right? And it's not just about a job. They want to feel that they're contributing to the greater good. They want to feel that they're working for an organization that has purpose, which is just not about making profit, right? That really by this organization is impacting society. It's making a change. It's making the world a better place. And this Generation Z and a lot of the younger generations want to join an organization which has those kind of beliefs, and I think that's also something important that we need to kind of look at. And it's not just about the present, it's about paving the way for the future, and that's really where your talent management and your succession pipelines come into play. We have to invest in the next generation of leaders, leaders, give them the tools and the support that they need, because of course, the future of Sri Lanka depends on it. So if you're not going to invest in them, then you're not really readying them or getting them ready, for that. Another important thing I think to consider is, at the end of the day, we are all human, right? And we have to show empathy, show understanding and compassion. And when employees feel like they are being treated as individuals and as humans and not just a cog in a machine that's kind of generating something, they will better resonate with the organization, and they will be more loyal and committed to it as well. So as we look ahead, I think it's really important to remember that the future prosperity of Sri Lanka hinges on our collective efforts to nurture and empower human capital. Let's together try to figure out how we foster that culture of innovation, inclusivity and collaboration, where talent thrives and contributes to our nation's sustainable development. Let's embrace all the opportunities that lie ahead and work together to build a brighter, more human future for Sri Lanka, because at the end of the day, it's not just about the bottom line, it is about the people who still make it all possible. So those would be just some of my concluding thoughts.
We've been chatting with Dinali Peiris, the Director Group Human Resources at MAS Holdings. Dinali, thank you for an insightful and very interesting conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed being here. Thank you.
Lovely. And thank you to all our viewers for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.